Could Trevor Story be back in a Red Sox uniform before the end of this season? More on today's Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it is completely free. So you might as well check it out because Locked On is your team every day. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. Happy Friday. Welcome to the show. You made it through another week. Congratulations. And making it through another week means we are another week closer to the MLB postseason, which is absolutely crazy. I feel like opening day wasn't very long ago. This season is such flying by. It's been so crazy. I can't even believe it, but it's so exciting to think about the fact that the playoffs are right around the corner. But it's also a little bit nerve-wracking to think about the fact that the playoffs are right around the corner because the Red Sox still have a lot of work to do if they want to punch their ticket to the postseason. They still have a few games to jump over the Twins and or the Royals for a wild card spot. So they are going to need to buckle down and get the job done and win games, kind of like they just did on their recent road trip against the Orioles and Astros, splitting the 4-game series against Baltimore and then taking 2 of 3 from Houston after that. So finishing the road trip with a 4-3 record is great, especially against 2 difficult teams to play that are both in the playoff hunt right now. And while the Red Sox have dealt with lots of injuries this year, they have also dealt with lots of breakout stars like Cedar Rafaela, David Hamilton, Wilyer Abreu, exciting young players who are fun to watch that could be key pieces of the future for this Boston Red Sox team. Now, when you take a look at some of these younger players, what is their future looking like for the Boston Red Sox? And that fate could very much be partly determined by the return of some of their injured players. And one of those injured players is Trevor Story, who has been injured since April 5th, very early on in the season. And I don't think I'll ever forget when we watched him go down when he was trying to field a ground ball and he just didn't land right, and it was really tough to watch. And it came out that he likely would miss the whole season due to his injury and not being able to recover in time. But recent news, it says otherwise. So according to Red Sox Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow, there is a very strong chance that Trevor Story puts on a Red Sox uniform and contributes before the end of the season. And when he got injured, nobody ever thought that we would be having that conversation. So it's pretty remarkable that there's even a chance that he does come back. And Craig Breslow did talk about how there's just a noticeable difference in his vibe right now and the way he's carrying himself in the clubhouse. And it almost seems like there's a lot more positivity going when you talk to Trevor Story now, and a lot more optimism on his part. When he was placed on the 60-day injured list in April after undergoing shoulder surgery, it was heartbreaking for him because he just really wanted to be out there contributing to this team. But he did hint back in July at the possibility of returning this season, and manager Alex Cora backed up that optimism. And now that Craig Breslow is also saying it, I feel like coming from 3 different sources means it's probably a good chance that it actually happens and that he's able to come back and help the Red Sox in a potential playoff hunt. When Craig Breslow talked about it, he said he continues to make a ton of progress, and just being around him in the clubhouse, there's a different attitude that he's taking every day. He's excited to go on the field. There's a real strong chance that Trevor is putting on a Red Sox uniform and helping us at some point. I do feel like he wouldn't have said that straight up like that if he wasn't confident that it could very much happen. I don't think he would just say there's a good chance he'll be back this year. I think he would probably beat around the question and maybe say something along the lines of like, well, he still has a lot of work to do, so we'll just have to take it day by day, or something along the lines of that. I don't think he would say it that confidently if he really wasn't confident that it could happen. I know the growing optimism from Breslow and Cora might mean that Red Sox fans will be able to see him begin rehab assignments with the top prospects over in Worcester soon. And that would very much excite people, because with how stacked that Red Sox roster is right now, imagine adding Trevor Story into the mix for his rehab assignments. I mean, I pray for any other team that has to face that Red Sox lineup. But with all of this excitement of Trevor Story coming back potentially this season, what would that actually look like for the Red Sox? Because when he went on the IL, he was batting .226 on the season, and he has some rough games in there. His batting average was an .077 back on March 30th, and then he increased it a little bit to a 176 the next day because he recorded 2 hits in the game, and then increased it to a 190, going 1 for 4 on April 1st at the Athletics. But his batting average is at a .226, which is decent and trending in the right direction because of where he started and the fact that he was batting below 200 for a good portion of the beginning of the season, and he was continuing to increase that batting average. That certainly is promising for him and shows that he might have been starting to figure things out at the plate prior to getting injured. And that's why the injury was even more painful, is because it felt like he might have been in a position where he was starting to click at the plate and figure things out offensively. So the fact that he then went down with an injury that we thought was season ending was just heartbreaking to see, because I know people have been rooting for Story. I mean, he's definitely a good player to have around, hard worker, is so passionate about baseball, and just a good veteran leader to have in the clubhouse. And so fans were definitely aching for him when he went down. And the fact that he was trending upward in batting average is certainly a good sign. But if he does come back, especially considering overall how much he struggled at the plate in a Red Sox uniform, would his offense be beneficial for this team or not? Because Cedar Rafaela has been playing shortstop a lot for this Red Sox team in Trevor's absence, and he's batting .264 right now. In the most recent game against the Astros, he recorded 2 hits and drove in 2 runs, and he has been making an impact more than I think people thought offensively, especially because from a plate discipline standpoint, he struggled a lot early on in the season. But once he started to figure that out a little bit and be more patient at the plate, he has started to be a lot more effective as a hitter. So his .264 batting average is looking pretty good. And on top of that, Cedar has made some really nice plays defensively at shortstop, and that's not even his main position, because center field is his main position, and that's why naturally he's always been a little bit better in center. And we did see him make some defensive blunders at shortstop early on in the season, but as of late, we've seen him make some really nice plays at shortstop, and he's been slinging the ball over to first base, even when it doesn't seem like he'll be able to make the play. So we've seen some really impressive highlight reel type of plays from Rafaela, both in center and at shortstop this year. And now that he's been making those types of plays at shortstop, what would a Trevor Story return look like from that standpoint? Because if you add Story back into the lineup, it means that Cedon might not be playing as much because he could play in the outfield. But if he plays in the outfield every day, then they're taking away the opportunity for O'Neill or Abreu to play. And Abreu has been hitting very well this season. So you're losing that offensive productivity. Or you're DHing one of them and then you're taking at-bats away from Yoshida, who's been red hot lately. So it's an interesting predicament the Red Sox are in right now. I still firmly believe that overall, Trevor Story does have the edge defensively, and bringing him back on defense to play shortstop or second base would tremendously help the Red Sox. I would like to maybe see him not play shortstop and keep Cedon there when they can because he's been making nice plays, but rather maybe him play second base and take David Hamilton out of that spot because Hamilton definitely has struggled to make some of the necessary defensive plays that he has to make in that middle infield. So maybe you keep Rafaela at shortstop and you put Trevor Story in at second base and get him some reps there because likely that is where he's going to end up playing next year, especially if Marcelo Meyer ends up getting called up or Vaughn Grisham is able to be healthy. I do think in the long run with the rest of this Trevor Story contract, they will have him play second base and that'll end up being his position with this Red Sox team. So I'm looking at it as a type of situation where you don't want to really eliminate playing time from Rafaela, but rather maybe eliminate some playing time for David Hamilton and maybe still have him available as a pinch runner because his speed would be incredibly beneficial to have in the postseason. But maybe you focus your energy on having Story play defense in place of Hamilton because he definitely would be able to make more of those routine plays that we've seen Hamilton blunder on this year. From an offensive standpoint, though, Trevor's really going to have to up his productivity at the plate if he's going to be able to make an impact because we've seen this offense be a massive firepower this year, and we don't want to take away at-bats from guys who are seriously contributing to that. So I think from the standpoint of offense, David Hamilton is a very average offensive player. And from the standpoint of defense, we have had him make some mistakes. So I think if you want to bring Story back in, he would be the player that makes the most sense in the middle infield right now to replace. And it will be interesting to see what that timeline looks like because there's definitely cons to taking David Hamilton out, like the speed, like I mentioned. So lots of decisions the Red Sox would have to make if Trevor Story does come back. But I have no doubt that a reunion would amp up these Red Sox players and allow them to have a lot more energy going into a potential playoff push. And from a locker room and vibe standpoint, I think Trevor could really help push that positivity for this team. So definitely would be excited to see him come back. Would be also interested in seeing the types of decisions the Red Sox do make in order to make room for him if he does come back. But either way, they need to win games, and whatever puts them in the best position possible to win games is how they should proceed moving forward. Coming up, though, I'm going to be talking about a player on this Red Sox team who's been a great leader, but is rumored to maybe be retiring after this season. So that's coming up. If you're looking to stay extra hydrated, especially at this time of year in the summer, Liquid IV has you covered. I love watching baseball games and I love eating ice cream while I'm watching those games. And I also want to make sure that while I'm taking in America's favorite pastime and remembering to eat my ice cream, I also have to remember to drink my water. And on top of water, Liquid IV is also something that you can mix in with the water to help you stay extra hydrated, more so than just water alone. There's actually a variety of different flavors, including popsicle, firecracker, and pina colada. I personally have tried the pina colada flavor, and it's delicious. So you can sprinkle this powder essentially into your water, and it'll help you stay extra hydrated so that you're feeling well. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. This stuff could absolutely change your life, especially after a night out. So you might as well purchase some today. I promise you're going to love it. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Let's just face it, we all have things that go wrong in our houses, so having extra supplies on hand is never a bad thing. The Boston Red Sox right now have been in a spot this year where they've had a mix of veteran players on the team as well as a mix of some younger players who don't have as much experience, and the more experienced players have been able to help guide them. And one of those more veteran players on the team this year is Rob Refsnyder, a guy who has been super helpful for this Red Sox team in the outfield. He's been used a lot as a pinch hitter too, and he is just a masterful hitter against lefties. So the Red Sox always put him in the lineup when there's a lefty on the mound. And with his experience and the vast number of teams that he's played for, he's been able to experience a lot of different environments and been through a lot of the hardships of playing in Major League Baseball and really making it as a professional. And that's been fantastic for a Red Sox team full of players who are still trying to find themselves and find their identity within this sport and at the Major League level. So having him around certainly serves lots of great benefits in this clubhouse. But there are some rumblings that he may retire after this season. He essentially mentioned that it's his 10th season right now in the show, and it's been a while that he's been around. He's never played more than 51 games in an MLB season before joining the Red Sox in 2022. He did eclipse that threshold in each of the last 3 seasons, including this year, which is shaping up to be the best season of his career. I mean, again, not only does he crush lefties, but he's also been crushing righties also this year. So it's helped him to succeed a lot more at the plate. But he did recently inform the Boston Globe that he was considering retiring after this season to spend more time with his family, as he is 33 years old. He mentioned that he truly doesn't know yet and that he's undecided. He said he really doesn't care about individual stats and wanted to make a postseason run in Boston and experience that. So he said he's going to take it step by step from there and decide what to do. He also added, you can still make a big impact not being in a uniform, and it's a lot easier for your family and their schedule. Who knows if I'll have that opportunity, but I think it would be a joy to figure out how I can help young players. It's interesting because what I'm taking from that is that he wants to see if the Red Sox make the postseason this year and see how that goes and be able to experience being part of the postseason action with this team. And he's going to evaluate at the end of the season to see if it makes sense for him to stick around or not. And I also get the vibe that maybe he's considering coaching, because when he mentioned it'd be a joy to figure out how to help young players, that got me thinking that what if he wants to retire to spend more time with his family, but wants to get into coaching on the side, which obviously isn't nearly as much of a commitment as being in the majors, and he's changing and impacting the lives of younger kids. That is definitely a possibility too. And I really took from that if he feels like there's unfinished business, maybe he'd come back next year, but that he really wants to experience a postseason push with Boston. So say the Red Sox do make the playoffs this year and they make a little bit of a deep run, then maybe he calls it quits then, because he says, okay, I've experienced everything that I know I wanted to experience. I was able to go to the postseason party with this Red Sox team, and now I need to spend more time with my family. It's that time now. Or the Red Sox don't make the playoffs this year, but they have so much talent on the team that he feels like they could make the postseason next year. So maybe he stays. But it's an interesting scenario, because if he decides to retire, that would be a pretty big loss from a leadership and locker room standpoint for this Red Sox team. And I know there would be a lot of people that miss him, especially Alex Cora, who said he's not really buying it. Refsnyder does turn 34 in late March, so he's getting up there. But despite that, Alex Cora basically still called his bluff and said that this came at a surprising time considering the season that he's having this year, and especially with the fact that the Red Sox are likely to be in the postseason mix next year as long as they go out and get pitching this offseason. But Alex Cora straight up said, I'm not buying it. I know what he wants to do in the future. I really do, but I think he's very productive. He's a good player. I'm not Craig Breslow, but that's a good deal. To have him back would be great. So obviously, Cora wants him back. I'm sure Refsnyder would enjoy being back. It's just a matter of, is it still the right time for him to be playing, or should he call it quits? Him returning to the Red Sox would require a joint decision made by Refsnyder himself as well as Craig Breslow. He'll obviously need to decide if he's going to retire or play, but Craig Breslow needs to be able to have final say on the 2025 club option in his contract that the Red Sox can choose to exercise or not. But presumably with the season he's having now, Refsnyder would choose to exercise the club option and keep him around for 2025. And Cora would certainly welcome him back with open arms. So ultimately it is going to be more up to Refsnyder himself. But by chance, if Craig Breslow was like, I don't really feel like we need him, I don't need to necessarily exercise this club option, then it wouldn't matter at that point what Refsnyder does want to do. But I have no doubt that they'd want to exercise it. They know he's a great leader to have in this clubhouse. They know he's a guy who's been in the league a long time. And he's somebody who is just having a fantastic season this year. And that's another part of it too. Yes, he's having a great season this year, which in a lot of situations, it makes sense to come back after a season like that so that you can help lead this team to the playoffs. But from his perspective, what if he feels like this is his best? He's having a career season right now, and he would rather end on that than maybe come back next year and struggle a little bit more. Because if he struggles a little bit more and then he retires, then he's feeling like bummed because he's saying, oh, I could have retired on a better note. So there's definitely pros and cons to both scenarios here. And I very much do believe him when I say that he's not really sure and he's going to wait till the end of the season to figure it out. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back, but if he does go, at least he warned us in advance that that could be the scenario and that he is thinking about it and it's something he's considering. But if Alex Cora doesn't believe it and feels like it's all nonsense, then maybe it's not happening, and maybe he just had a thought about it in the back of his mind, but it's not likely going to come to fruition. So we'll have to see what happens with it, but I certainly would like to see Refsnyder back. I feel like he's just a great person for this Red Sox team to have around and for the young guys to look up to, and I just really would feel like this Red Sox team would be better off with him in the clubhouse. But we'll see as the rest of the season unfolds what he decides come September or October, depending on how far they make it in the postseason. And we'll know very shortly what his future is with this Red Sox team. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about a pitcher who is making his return and comeback to the Boston Red Sox. So you definitely don't want to miss that because he might be in a Red Sox uniform very soon. Okay, I'm going to admit this. I sometimes do feel lazy to go to the gym, but I do want to get my workouts in and feel like I'm still staying in shape. So the urge to work out at home sometimes is totally real. Even the most dedicated gym goers struggle with consistency. The commute, waiting for weights, other people's sweat, it makes skipping a workout very tempting. With Tonal, you can choose from thousands of workouts and train in a way you actually enjoy at home. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps get you stronger. Powered by AI, Tonal learns with every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, Tonal uses adaptive digital weights to advance your training techniques. Right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your purchase with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase. That's Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off. This will absolutely change your life, and it really doesn't give you an excuse to not keep up with your workout schedule, because if you don't have to go anywhere, it saves time and you still feel like you can get a quality workout in. So make sure you purchase that today, especially with that deal. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sully is so funny. I've had the pleasure of doing a couple crossover shows with him, and he's definitely super knowledgeable about baseball. So make sure you check out his show right after this. As the Red Sox look to make a playoff push and keep themselves up to par with the Royals and the Twins, they have reinforcements that are coming between the likes of Liam Hendricks, hopefully Justin Slayton, possibly Trevor Story, like I talked about earlier on in the show, and now Rich Hill, who the Red Sox signed to a minor league deal on August 15th, somebody who's such the definition of a veteran as he's 44 years old. And this is his fourth stint with the Boston Red Sox. So he's very familiar with Fenway and playing in this organization. It made a lot of sense for the Red Sox to sign him when they did, because of the fact that James Paxton is now out for the rest of the season and they need somebody to slide into the rotation to help give them innings, or even the bullpen. He can be used in a variety of different roles. He could start, he could relieve, he could close, he could pitch in high or low leverage. That's the nice thing about Rich Hill, is that the flexibility is there for him to be able to pitch in a lot of different roles depending on what the Red Sox need him to do. He has spent time preparing for his Friday appearance with AAA Worcester, so he is making that appearance today. And the plan is for Alex Cora and everybody to see how he does and then reevaluate whether they feel like they should call him up to the major league team right away or give him another opportunity in AAA before he gets called up. He last pitched for the San Diego Padres last season, but didn't sign with the club before the start of this season because he wanted to coach his son. So the timing ended up happening to be right for him, but he does have a clear goal for the rest of this month. He mentioned that his goal is to be on the postseason roster and be up on the major league club before September 1st. He feels like he has plenty of experience of pitching in the postseason and understanding what it takes to pitch in that environment. And he feels like just because of that, it would be beneficial for him and the Red Sox to be able to get him called up sooner rather than later. And he feels like bringing a level of understanding and experience to some of the younger pitchers is a big driving force behind him even coming back and pitching. after James Paxton's injury, there is just not a lot of left-handed pitchers on the Red Sox staff. So he'd be a much-needed body, but he'll definitely have to prove he's still capable of pitching at a major league level starting tonight before the Red Sox are able to confidently bring him back up to the major league team. It's expected for him to have a short start at Norfolk tonight, and then Brad Keller will piggyback him after that. Because he hasn't pitched in a professional game since October 1st against the White Sox last year, it's hard to know what version of Rich Hill we're going to get, how rusty he's going to be, and that's why the Red Sox want to make sure that he looks good before the Red Sox call him back up. He's pitched in 70 games, 30 of them being starts for Boston over multiple stints with the Red Sox during his career. He had a 4.27 ERA and 124 and a third innings for the 2022 Red Sox team. Alex Cora did emphasize that there's no promises, and if it does happen where he pitches very well in Worcester and the Red Sox are ready to call him up, Cora's open to whatever role he will be in. And they're focused on just getting him back on the mound and back to competing, and then they'll go from there. But it definitely makes a lot of sense that he would want to get back sooner rather than later. He knows that the Red Sox are trying to make a playoff push right now. He knows they're low on left-handed pitching, and he also just has the urge to be back out there. I mean, with how much time he's been away from the game and having the opportunity to coach his son the way that he did, he has probably been dying to go back out there and pitch himself, because if I were him, I would definitely be wanting to do the same thing. And I'd be watching all these other guys play and saying, wow, I totally miss this. I miss having the opportunity to be out there throwing and contributing. So I don't blame him for wanting to go back out there. I think the biggest thing is going to be, is he still going to have it? Is he still going to be able to string together some effective outings for this Boston Red Sox team to the point where they can rely on him regularly to give them a good start or give them a good few outings out of the pen if he comes in relief? Is he going to be somebody that the Red Sox can truly rely on to pitch wherever is needed? And I do feel like from an experience and veteran standpoint, I agree with him that him having experience pitching in the postseason, he can help some of these guys like Brian Bayo and Tanner Houck and Cutter Crawford to feel a little bit less pressure and hopefully help calm some of their nerves going into the postseason. So there certainly are a lot of benefits to him being back here. It's just going to be a matter of what version of him are we going to get when he comes back? Is he going to be effective enough to the point where the Red Sox could continue to rely on him? And is he going to be somebody that comes back and can eat innings? Because that was the biggest thing about James Paxton that I liked, was even though he wasn't the sharpest starter in the Red Sox rotation and wasn't putting up the most competitive numbers out of all the starters, he was able to eat innings and get through lengthier starts. And that's one of the biggest things the Red Sox are going to need here down the stretch, because of the fact that the bullpen as of recently has had to be pretty overused in general because of the injuries and the starters not being able to pitch as deep into games as they were earlier on in the season. So they definitely need somebody who they know can consistently eat innings and be able to take some of that stress off of the bullpen physically, of them being able to rest their arms. And so there are a lot of benefits to having him here. We'll see how his start with Worcester goes, and I'm hoping it goes really well and it shows Craig Breslow and company that it's time for him to be called up, because it's not like he was injured and needs more rehab starts necessarily. It's just a matter of where he's at skill-wise now that he's been away from the game for a bit, and the Red Sox just really need to figure out if he's somebody that they could utilize down the stretch here regularly with the major league team. And hopefully the answer is yes, because they absolutely do need the pitching help. And I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table if he is able to come here and contribute. So I'm hoping for the best here as this Red Sox team looks to make its playoff run. I think there is so much potential with this team. It's just a matter of them staying consistent and bringing it all together. And if they do that, I feel confident that they'll be able to bring everything they have to the table and compete with other teams, because the lineup can compete with anybody. The rotation needs to clean up a couple things, but hopefully they're starting to get a little bit back more on track to where they were in the first half, and this bullpen just needs help. So hopefully they are able to string together some more wins like they did on this road trip, and we find them in the postseason conversation here in a few weeks. But you can help with that by keeping the faith, like I always say. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.